We are free, but I fear it might not last for long. Someone's gonna find us, or something, and my strength will not be enough to protect us. I have to be careful, not take any unnecessary risks. I feel like a coward, but I'm just trying to keep it safe. I don't want to lose my life before I've had the opportunity to taste what freedom is really like. Or the opportunity to taste water again.
Sometime about halfway through your watch, Mach returns. Mach, you have arrived back. You have to kind of circle in and out of a few of the arms of the Star Dune until you find exactly where the group was. But then you do, and by that time it is early morning, and the sun is casting long shadows across the dunes.
I will approach and let my presence be known before I'm seen. I don't want to be surprised or have them surprised. I want them to know that I'm coming, and then I will present myself and do a quick inventory to make sure that there are 3 sleepers still that I left.
And there are.
I will come down amongst them and get out of the sun in the shade that we dug down here. And I will look at each one of them and slowly take my the position you see me take whenever it's time for me to meditate. Basically, I fold my long, spiny arms and legs together in sort of a like cross arms and legs in a sort of like almost like a lotus position you can imagine, and then you feel my psionic sort of the telepathic knock on the door of your psyche as I reach out my mind to the group of you.
Right now, Desi and Boast are both asleep.
Well, then I will just speak to Zarn. I have good news. I found both water as well as a small cups of foliage where we may be able to find some of your fruiting plants. It is about 5 miles from here. Not far, but far enough in the blazing sun. The other difficulty is, of course, it is a large patch of vegetation and enough water that I saw many, many tracks coming and going of all manner of creatures.
Real quick, give me one more survival check for Ma'ak before you say that.
I make it by 8.
Okay. Correction, you saw lots of tracks going toward it.
I think that we need to be incredibly cautious as we approach.
Sounds like there's something in the water.
Indeed. Something is leading... It is a great bait or trap of some form.
Maybe it's not even water.
Aaron, do we know of something that it could... Is there something that could masquerade as an oasis?
So if you have survival sandy wastes, give me that check.
Well, I make mine by 11.
What's your number?
Sandy wastes is a 16 and I rolled a 5.
5, okay. Best you know is that you have heard tell of false oases, but you have heard all manner of story. The majority of the stories that you have heard are typical oases that are large pools of water with palm trees and shrub brush around them, which turn out to be the maws of gargantuan subterranean creatures that will swallow anyone who approaches too close to the water's edge whole. This does not look like that.
No, but that's the operative question, though. How close is too close?
Typically, like from what you had learned from your clutch, and because you've never experienced one of these yourself, So you don't have any awakened memories of such a place. But what you've learned from your clutch and your pack is typically it requires you to actually get right up and start drinking from that water. The water's
Okay.
the bait.
All right, so I feel like I have a way to identify whether this is what we're debating right now or not before we would be in any danger. So that's good. That's good. But based on that conversation that Zarn and I are having, it may not be an oasis at all, but I suppose it's worth a try, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it might be, we might be able to find a herd or something of other interested creatures. Maybe we can find some food.
Use its lure as our own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that could work.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure we can figure out a way to maybe test. Maybe we could throw something into the water, I don't know. You know, if like vibration across that plane is gonna be what awakens the maw.
Well, if you wish, have you, and I struggle with the word, slept?
I try and take inventory of if I've rested enough. I don't think I have, right? I've only rested 4 hours.
Yeah, you need another 4 to finish. Everyone here is going to need 8 hours, so...
Then I will basically just, with the last of my telepathic communication, because I think I probably need to end it now, I will say, if you wish, return to sleep. I will watch and make sure you are all safe.
That would be wonderful.
At this point, also, everyone has 1 quart of water left. So that quart will get you through half of the coming day of travel. You notice sometime around mid-afternoon, you can just barely see 2 like dark shapes cross the sky overhead, way at the edge of your ability to see them. They're hundreds and hundreds of feet high.
Can I identify what they are?
No, even for you, they're just 2 black specks in the sky as they pass over.
What could they be?
Well, they could be any manner of flying creature. They could be simple birds. I mean, they could be weezers, which is a type of giant wasp. There's a lot of different things that could fly overhead. Now, granted, they pay you no mind. They just kind of cross the sky, disappear on the horizon.
I don't see any reason to alarm the other ones, but I will probably keep an eye on the sky when we decide to travel.
They are heading from the northeast to the southwest. Kind of the direction you're heading.
Okay. And how about that oasis? What direction is that from where we are?
Similar direction. It's a little bit more to the west.
I won't rush them. I'll wait for Boast and Desi to awaken in their own time.
You all get your fill, you wake up, it's late afternoon. Anything that you want to do before you set off towards the oasis, if that is in fact where you're going.
It's still light out, or is it starting to get dark now?
It's late afternoon, so the sun is low on the western horizon, casting long shadows. It is still blisteringly hot, probably somewhere around 110 degrees. You can see off across the dunes the wavy mirage caused by the heat coming off of the sand, creating waves and silvery outlines across the horizon. As you can begin to head off towards this oasis that Ma'ak has found. You know, however, that in the next couple hours that temperature is going to plummet quickly.
Just a little bit more, and then we can begin our journey towards that oasis. Huh?
Ma'ak, you lead everyone off towards this oasis, and it's uneventful. You make your way through low-lying dunes until finally you reach that Mechalot dune that Ma'ak had found the night before. And you make your way up, and by this time, it is well past dusk. You can still just see that copper tinge on the horizon. But the temperature is already plummeted to the point where it's getting a bit chill out. And you begin that trek up that Mechalot dune through the deep, sluggish sand. And all of you are panting somewhat to a greater or lesser degree as you crest that dune, and you can look down now and you can see out in front of you that broad vegetative thicket out there about perhaps a mile distant. And in the center, you can just see the gleam, that silvery glint, shining in the twin moons of what appears to be liquid.
Is that what it looks like?
We're not sure. Worth a look. But careful.
Yes, you're right.
Might be the maw of a great beast.
At this point, the rest of you have pretty much drank up what is left of your water. Especially Desi, who is not used to travel through the desert, and Boast, who is not used to travel through the desert. You probably took a few too many sips, and your water skins are now empty.
I've heard that the best place to store water is in your body. When in the desert, these are survival tips that I have learned growing up.
It's just the rate that you're putting that water in your body. You might want to slow down a little bit.
I'm thirsty.
Yeah, Zarn, you still have a few more sips left. And Ma'ak, you haven't actually touched yours. You've been perfectly okay. You can now make your way down towards the oasis.
Do they look dehydrated? Do I have any way of telling?
I mean, yeah, it is hard for you because these are alien creatures to you. You know, they're mammals. They're a lower form of desert life as far as the Thrycreen are concerned.
Being a student of reincarnation myself, I try not to hold the current incarnation a person has taken against them, but I will look at them in a way they probably can't tell, but for me, it's sort of like sympathetic, I suppose, and I will point at the wineskin that Desi has just finished, and I will like reach my 3-clawed hand towards it for her to put it in my palm.
I will give it to him.
I will basically pour what I think is a day's worth of water for me into it, and then I'll give her my wineskin, and I'll keep the one I just filled. And I won't say another word, and I'll just go back to walking towards the oasis.
It's up to the rest of you to decide what you think of that. You can begin your trek down towards the oasis. Now, long story short, as you approach it, you can all now see that, yes, there are tracks in the sand leading toward the oasis. And it's pretty obvious you haven't seen any tracks leading away from it. You all make your way toward the thicket. As you get within about 50 meters or so, you can see that the bushes themselves have sort of a drab, gray-pink tinge to them. They are covered in thorns, which from this distance seem to be maybe about the length of a finger. And you can still see, though, because it exists within a basin. From this height, you can still see, like, in the middle of this about a half a mile wide thicket, you can see that scintillating silver reflection glistening in the moonlight in the center, beckoning, unmistakable gleam of water.
Do we want some light?
Well, if there's a chance that this is water, we'd at least better investigate it. Although I do have a very bad feeling about this.
As do I. At this point, Aaron, now that we're within, you said 50 meters, right? I am going to use one of my telepathic abilities. I'm going to use life detection. My M. Thaco roll on this is, final roll is a 10, but I'm not supposed to know if I make it or not. So, a 10 or better, and I succeed. You roll it, I don't know.
You're pretty certain you do not detect anything intelligent in the 2 minutes you spent scanning this space. Are you going to approach closer?
I am almost impossible to restrain.
Alright, I guess we're going for it.
Okay, so you start to approach the Oasis. You come to within about 20 meters of the boundary. How close do you want to get?
I would like to be looking for like a stone or some kind of something I can throw into the water.
Yeah, you can find a stone. It's not too difficult down here. The sand actually begins to kind of turn into sort of a crackled mudflat around the edge of the thicket itself. And so there are chunks of hard dirt, there are stones, plenty of things that you can pick up and use. As you get closer, it becomes, of course, because it's night, becomes more and more difficult to see into the bramble itself. When you were higher up, you could see that glinting of the pool, and now it just presents as this thick, dark wall of thorny growth.
Okay, I'm gonna cast light.
You cast light. How close do you want to get? Because at first it shines back at you, and you can now see more clearly the structure of the thorns itself, and it is a pale gray pink. And you can also see that the thorns themselves are about 1 inch to 1.5 inches long, and the ends are barbed.
Can I find a dead branch of it on the ground somewhere? Can I examine one without cutting a live one?
You would have to get within about 5 feet to get something like that. How close are you getting to the edge of the thicket?
I get pretty close. I think 5 feet.
As you get closer, you do see that the bramble itself is this intertwining weave of gnarly branches and twigs all intertwining in on itself. There doesn't seem to be any foliage whatsoever.
Do I see any animal tracks near us leading up to that thicket?
You do, and they all seem to be diverging off in a particular direction, off around sort of the west. They come in from different areas, and then they all kind of start to trace a path around the circumference to the west.
So they don't go into the thicket here, is what you're saying?
No, not straight into the thicket. It looks like they come, like the most recent tracks you find come toward the thicket, And then you can see areas where, like, maybe an Inex or an Erdlu may have been mulling around and then kind of started to go off towards the west.
Okay. I think we should follow these tracks. I want to find one of these creatures. I want to find out either bones or a body or something. What happened to them?
Are you going to kind of go around in that 5-foot edge?
I'm probably not getting more than within 20 feet of the thicket.
Is Zarn going to be that close?
I mean, if I notice those footprints, I'm definitely going to focus on them. So if they don't go 5 feet close, I'll like.
They're pretty close. They're right within 5 feet of the thicket as they make their way around.
I'm just gonna follow them.
Okay, so as the group of you begin to make your way west around, Zarn, you are looking into the thicket, casting. You kind of begin to hold your necklace up, directing the light into the thicket. And you begin to see what appear to be bones here and there, littered on the ground in the thicket itself.
There's something not right about this.
Is it like the thorns drank their blood? Are they like wrapped in the thorns and like stabbed everywhere?
I mean, it's hard to say. There's some that look like they've been there for a long time, half buried. Every once in a while you'll see some that are kind of at the edge of the thicket. Some are fresher. Some are, like the skeletal remains of an Erdlu or a Kank. But, it kind of becomes ubiquitous as you travel westward around the perimeter. Here and there you spot them.
In all of these cases, though, there's no meat, no skin, nothing. Like, these bones have been picked clean.
Well, no, they're not picked clean. The newer bones definitely have sinew and leathery strips of flesh left. But the Athasian sun makes short work of any organic matter left to bake. So it doesn't take long.
As the person who is most likely to die if we don't get water, and let's acknowledge, the most expendable of the lot, if I were to create a chain, if I was the one to go closest to the thicket, closest to the water, if anything bad happens to me, maybe someone can pull me back, but I will just... Can I just try and see what happens?
What are we waiting for? This is ridiculous. There's only one way to find out. I'm gonna try and throw this stone into it.
There's 2 ways to find out. We'll wait for another animal to wander in first.
I don't have that kind of time, if I'm perfectly honest.
I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. We need a lot of water. If this isn't a source, we have to keep moving.
We throw the stone. If nothing happens, I take hold of Mahat's... I don't know what you call that, a hand? And then I will creep as close as I can get, try to get to the water. If it is poisonous, I will be able to tell you. If I die, well, I will probably be dead in another 2 or 4 hours anyway. What do you say?
I turn to Boast to see what his reaction is.
I think this is too dangerous. I think we had better continue moving. This is not going to go well. I'm not going to try and stop you, but I think it is too dangerous. It looks very, very bad.
I made you a promise. Mark. I can't keep that promise if I'm dead. And you... I point to Boast. You're free now. The time to hesitate to be subservient. We're in the wild. You have to take what you can get. You have to survive so that the flame of your life can continue to burn for as long as possible. And if we are timid here, I just do not see a way. I do not see a way.
I throw this down.
You throw it as far as you can, and you hear the crackling sound as it descends through the bramble, and then like a very, very subtle thunk as it hits the sand. And you all go silent for what seems like an eternity. Waiting, listening for a sound. All you get is the as the wind howls across the desert. No sound comes from the thicket. It's not long after that as you're all standing there silent. Ma'ak, you're out ahead of everybody. You're a little bit further distance from the edge of the thicket. And you look off to the west. Well, at this point, west, southwest, as you're rounding. And you see what you think to be an opening? A pathway leading into the thicket?
This is, I assume, where all the animal tracks have led, then?
Yeah, you see a lot of them converging on this opening. Getting closer to it, you see that it's a hollow passage that leads straight, and when you stand there at the opening, you can see the moonlight reflecting now off of that pool of water. Now, if you want to get there, you're going to have to get down on your hands and knees. You're going to have to crawl. It's only about 3 foot in diameter, this passage.
I'm going to, be very careful. I don't want to touch the tip of any of the barbs. I want to just kind of like run 2 of my fingers across the side of one to try and, scoop up a little of whatever this is.
As you get closer, you run your finger along sort of the shaft of one of the thorns down towards the end where there is like kind of a hooked barb. And the barb itself kind of splays off in 2 directions, opposite each other. But as you get closer, you can see that the barbs themselves seem to be protruding out of a small, like, aperture or hole at the end of the thorn itself. It'd be hard to tell exactly what's happening without sort of breaking one of these thorns free and examining it. But there is sort of a sticky substance
like
that...
a sap.
Like a sap, exactly. There's no response, though, from the plant.
It doesn't quiver.
It doesn't quiver. It doesn't respond to your touch.
What does the sap smell like?
It does have a scent.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little sweet.
All right. I'm going to taste it.
The taste of the sap is not as pungent as the olfactory sense of the sap. But you do get a slight sweetness on the tip of your tongue. Doesn't cause any other sensations that you can tell.
I shrug.
Are you going to go in?
Yep.
Are you tying yourself off?
Yeah.
Someone tie me.
Okay. And who's holding the other end of the rope?
That would be me.
Okay. Boast. Okay. So this is what happens. You tie yourself off with a length of rope. You give the other length to Boast. You get down on your hands and knees and you begin to crawl into this sort of natural tunnel that exists, that leads from the edge of the thicket all the way to the center where that scintillating pool of hopefully water is. And you start crawling, and about a minute passes, and everyone is not breathing. That first minute passes, crawling. And as you do so, you stumble on a bone here, jaw there. Another minute passes. Everything seems to be going fine. There's no movement. The plant isn't shaking or quivering. There's this tension inside your brain that is, the whole world has stopped. The whole world has stopped breathing. Everything has gasped and held their breath. And about 3 minutes into your crawl, you feel a drip on your neck. And you feel it. You feel this sticky substance ooze and slide down the side of your neck. And you pause. And you look around. And you can see the silver light of the moon casting its shadows, its labyrinthine shadows across the ground and across your body. And you feel another drip and another drip. And then you think in that moment, you see the thicket quiver.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly it begins to writhe. And outside, the rest of you can suddenly see the whole thicket start to shiver and quiver. And then you hear Zarn yelp. Boast.
I begin pulling them in.
And I'm not even going to make you. You're so strong that you begin to yank them back. Immediately, and Zarn, you feel this. Immediately, the cord goes taut and then jerks you back, and as you do, the whole thicket just compresses and twines around you, and you cannot hope to escape. Thorns from all over, dozens, begin to pierce you with their sharp, stinging barbs. And you take 4 points of damage immediately as the barbs stick into your skin. Boast, you begin to wrench them back, pulling with all of your might, dragging Zarn through the thicket, and you can feel and you can see the thicket itself shudder against your strength as you pull what is basically a plug through this hole that has constricted now.
Can I start casting a spell?
With the barbs entering into your body and Boast yanking you back with all his might, you are absolutely incapable of doing anything except just letting what is happening happen. Now, granted, Boast is so immensely powerful that he is able to wrench you through, but it does take a couple more minutes to get you out, in which time you take 4 more points of damage as barbs just continue to pierce you. Until finally you're wrenched free, and the rest of you see Boast in the gleaming moonlight of the 2 Athasian moons. You see his rippling sinew wrench the bulk of the dwarven Zarn out of the thicket, and the bramble bursts forth, and sticks and twigs shatter in all directions, and barbs go flying. Give me save versus breath weapon. Just Desi and Ma'ak.
I missed by 6.
I rolled a 4.
So you both failed. Desi and Ma'ak, as Boast wrenches Zarn's body from the thicket, brambles and barbs and thorns go exploding outwards, and not only that, but the thicket itself erupts and writhes like a wild snake and lashes out and hits both of you for 6 points of damage as dozens of barbs enter into your skin and tear at your flesh. But Zarn has been pulled free. They are safe and sound now, because Boast continues to yank them back away from the thicket until they are right at Boast's feet. You look up, you're covered in barbs, and you look up and see there in the twin moonlight the rippling form, the thews of Boast standing over you, and he pulls you to your feet, safe and sound, and at once exult in the pain, and at the same time, you heave a sigh of intense relief, because you know that you have been pulled from the jaws of death.
So the whole time I've been pulled out, I've been cackling, and I stop and take that breath of relief, and I kind of like, with your hand in my hand, I kind of like squeeze hard and just say, "You're made well."
You're safe now. I guess you didn't find any water.
Oh, I found a lot of things in there. What a beautiful creature. I'm going to kill it now.
Best to do that, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm going to start casting Flame Blade.
What's your ultimate intent?
Oh, I'm going to set this thing on fire.
Okay. Ma'ak and Desi, you both have to flee back as these barbs sail out and embed themselves into you. Zarn! They begin this enchantment, and flame rises in their eyes, and their weapon bursts into flame, and they run into the thicket and begin to hack at it, casting it ablaze. And the thicket itself starts to go up in just plumes of flame and smoke.
Before I can even act, I look up. I see Zarn running full tilt with a flaming morning star straight back into the thicket. Ma'ak sort of raises a hand and screams out in Thrycreen, "Is there any chance that this might have triggered some kind of memory in me, some kind of experience, even in a past life, or an ancestor's experience about what this thing might be, or what setting it on fire might do?"
Can you give me a reincarnation awareness check?
I make it by 14.
It's a very old memory. And all that you can conjure from it is pain and suffering. And then you see flame, and at the end of it, you have this memory of drinking, of drinking something that clogs your lungs, and that's the last thing you remember of that life.
Water kills. Even water bad.
I look at Zarn. Don't you think you've done enough? We should just go. We need to find water somewhere else.
Is this the oasis on the map?
You're uncertain. You doubt it, though. You haven't traveled long enough.
I have to get out of here. There's nothing left for us to take here. The thing is ablaze, and we still need to head to this oasis, yes? We need water, and we don't have any now. And this didn't give us anything except 4 wounds, and... well...
Based on your travels so far, you think you've headed about 10 miles southwest of where you left the caravan, which should be taking you in the general direction of the oasis. But you still think you have quite maybe 30, 40 more miles to travel before you get there.
It'll be tough, but we'll have to try.
I'm going to die of dehydration before then.
Okay, so you're going to head off?
I want to get us out of eyeshot of this column of smoke that is quickly going to alert everything within 10 miles to this fire. And I don't want us to be anywhere near it when that happens. But otherwise, once I feel like we are far enough away that we're not going to be attracting any attention that would have, I think I'm going to attempt to do a water find and see if I can find something else to sustain them as we travel.
Give me your water find.
I make it by 5.
You see a shape overhead, fly overhead. And the rest of the group doesn't notice it. But you hear ever so subtly, and it causes a shiver up your carapace and along your long legs. The fibers, the hairs on the back of your legs kind of quiver because you hear this sound, this really subtle buzz far overhead, heading to the southwest. And you look up and you think you know what that might be. You're not quite sure though, but you know it's worth following in that direction.
Without word, I'm obviously on point here, so I will just start to follow that flying creature. Do I have any way of identifying what it might be?
You hope that it is a creature known as a Weezer. And a Weezer is a very large insectoid creature, kind of like a massive wasp. And you know that the Weezers, they hoard water and they hoard honey, both of which can protect you from dehydration in the deserts of Athos.
They hoard them on their bodies, or they hoard them in a hive or a nest somewhere?
Well, not only do they hoard them on their bodies, but they also hoard them in their hives. And you, as a Thri-Kreen, your clutch has raided many a Weezer hive to stay alive.
Then I will probably excitedly turn and sell.
Weezer! We'll first come fast
and I will start going fast in that direction.
And then I follow, having Zarn on my shoulder.
Carry me, boy.
And you basically follow that trail. Now, granted, the Weezer, you believe the Weezer, is long gone. But you keep heading off in that direction because you know if a Weezer's heading home, they don't divert. It's like the flight of an arrow. And they will go straight there. So you set a course and you head that way. And you travel the night. And sometime close to dawn, maybe about an hour, there's just that coppery glow over the eastern sky. If you looked out and you imagined the sea of silt out there in the distance, you can imagine the sun just beginning to rise up above that silvery silt. There's just that glimmer. And you see... Well, you don't see it at first, actually. Ma'ak, you're out ahead of the group. And you can hear this commotion ahead of you. This intense melee happening. This squawking and this furious buzzing happening just over the next dune.
Well, then I won't actually pause to wait for my companions to catch up. I will continue to go on ahead until I can put eyes on whatever this commotion is.
As you crest the dune, you can see two greasy black bird-like forms. Massive 20-foot wingspans. Dark, oily feathers. Bald heads. Pink, gobbly necks. And this long yellow beak. And then you see the Weezer there, attempting to defend itself from these two avian creatures. Give me a survival check.
I make it by 4.
You don't know what they're called, but you've seen these bird creatures before. They are highly intelligent. And they even speak their own language. But they are not to be trusted. And they are attacking the Weezer, desperately going after its sphere of water that it is holding within its mandibles.
Do I have an estimate of how far behind Boast and the rest of them are?
2 minutes.
I can't risk this thing being killed. I will do a psychic attack. I will use id insinuation. I roll a 17. I definitely hit. Just to be on the safe side, I am going to drop 12 points. So two uses of id insinuation on one of them. Okay, so he will take 2d8 points of damage from me, which is 13.
That mind is now open.
Immediately, it means that the victim is confused and powerless to act for 1d4 rounds.
And then, do you want to use one of your powers as well?
You know, actually, since I've got his mind open, I think I will. I think I am going to use invisibility.
Just we have the image. You go into your psychic landscape, and you can see this vast open plain with just the dark sun there in the distance and the twin moons across this vastness of the Athasian desert. And you can see this little globule And in fact, you can see 3 globules. You can see 3 little globules floating there in the sky, all flitting around each other. So frantic. And you choose one. You choose one of the winged creatures. And as you do, you open it completely, and you were using id insinuation.
Okay, so in my psychic space, since I can define, I am not undefined. My psychic form is very well defined. In this case, because all of my techniques tend to take on sort of an insectile sort of flavor, id insinuation is sort of where my praying mantis tarsus reveals itself and stabs straight into essentially their reptile brain, right? Deep, deep, deep in their base psyche, separating their id from their superego and basically overriding their natural impulses. In this case, making it so that he's unable to act at all for however long you rolled.
You see him in the real world, or you see it in the real world, and you see it in the psychic realm just begin to kind of list. And it slowly beats its wings, trying to maintain elevation as it slowly descends to the ground.
And then I will follow that up with my invisibility technique, basically making it so that he is unable to see me, even though I could be standing right in front of him. So I beat my target number by 3. So I have successfully made myself invisible to him. In theory, I could do that to more than one target, but I'm not going to risk that today. One target is enough for me.
The rest of you can now see this sort of on the dune up above you. Ma'ak has gotten far out ahead of you. And you can see these 2 black forms in the sky above him, up on the top of that dune. He suddenly stands still and just pauses, it seems. And then one of those black winged forms starts to sway in the air and fall and catch itself and slowly beat its wings in this kind of frantic attempt to prevent it from crashing to the ground. But you know that Ma'ak has engaged some enemy of its own.
How long does it take to get to them?
It's going to take a couple minutes to run up that dune to get to him. Now, granted, you could attempt to push yourself to the limit and get up there within the round.
I would.
Okay, so Desi's going to try to run up.
As is Bost carrying Zarn.
Give me strength checks.
I rolled a 9 out of 12.
And I roll a 7.
You're able to quadruple your run. Bost takes off through the sand like he's running on top of the grains themselves. And just off he goes. Desi, you're able to run at multiples of your speed as well, but Bost quickly outstrips you. So who wants to roll for initiative for the group at this point?
It makes sense if Ma'ak does, right?
I roll a 6.
Everybody tell me what you're doing.
Ma'ak would use his speed, and if necessary, his jump, to close the distance between himself and the bird creature that he has made himself invisible to, and attack it invisibly with his Chachkachaz attacks. But I would close as I could get right up to him, so be within the short range of 3 yards.
Boast, the best you can do right now is get up into melee distance. You will not be able to act this round.
And that is what I will do. I will just try and move as quickly as I possibly can, trying to get up to these enemies so that I can attack them.
Desi, You are also running, so that is the best that you can also do. You might be able to get into ranged distance this round. Zarn, what are they doing?
I'm still being carried.
You will have to be put down by Boast once he takes off. So Boast basically has to put you down, and then you can begin to cast.
I'm gonna close the distance then. That's what I'm
okay.
gonna
So
use.
then all three of you are gonna run. Okay. So meanwhile, as Boast, Desi, Zarn run, Boast just flies up this dune as if it is nothing. And the two of you, Desi and Zarn, are left in his dust. It is an extraordinary sight to see. At the top of the dune, you can just see as one of these black, massive bird creatures is attacking this giant wasp. The wasp lurches out and slices with two four legs that have these long, sharp appendages, and of course, this giant vulture-like creature swoops away and screeches as it evades the slash of this massive wasp-like creature. Maak, you can now go.
I probably hit even if it could see me. I roll a 13 and a 16 against my THAC of 11.
Yeah, you hit.
8 on the first attack and 6 on the second. So 14 total.
Oh yeah, you drop it. It screeches and howls in pain and flops around on the ground. Great black oily feathers go flying in all directions, and then you see its blood pool dark into the sand. At which point, as the rest of you fly up, the other one up there in the sky peers down, sees its companion die upon the sand. It screeches, and it turns, and off it goes into the distance. At which point, the remaining Weezer collapses to the ground, and you can now see that it is covered in wounds that have been inflicted by these creatures.
Can I cure it of light wounds?
You could certainly attempt that.
That is what I'm going to try and do.
Okay, you can run up. You have to get close enough where you can lay hands upon it.
Yeah.
I will attempt to assist Zarn in doing this by holding it still so it can't kick with its spiny legs or anything like that.
Could I use like animal handling or something with that?
Yes, you could. Yes.
I rolled a 3.
You go up. You approach it slowly. You make some very calming noises, and you're able to approach and lay your hands upon its carapace as it lays there, and you direct its attention towards Maak, who is, in a sense, some sort of distant kin of this creature. And it focuses on Maak, at which point you put your hands upon its back. It twitches slightly, and then you cast your spell, calling upon the elements of fire to emblazon its searing health upon this creature, at which point it screeches and writhes around in agony and pain. You see the wounds close. Roll me your Cure Light Wounds.
1.
It's not much. It's enough to irritate the creature, and enough to get it back up on its feet. It rolls over. All 6 legs plant in the sand. It looks around at the group of you. Its wings begin to flutter rapidly, and up it goes, lurching away. It stares down at you for a moment, and off to the southwest it goes.
Okay, we let it get just a few paces ahead of us, and then we will continue to... Actually, I will collect my chachkachas from this dead bird man. Are they good eating?
Yes, it is, actually.
Then I will probably take an arm or a wing or something like that for the road.
Yeah, the rest of you have never encountered such creatures before. And you see Ma'ak begin to dissect this thing immediately after the Weezer flees. Also, the Weezer had this large sphere, this like globule held within its mandibles. And when you, Ma'ak, attacked and killed this vulture creature, it dropped it in the fury. As it fell to the ground, it took those wounds, fell to the ground. That bubble was released from its mandibles, and it left it there. And it contains water.
I will surrender that honey globule or whatever it is to Desi or Boast or Zarn, whoever's standing nearest to me, and I will return to gaining my own liquid from the body of this bird creature, because I can maintain my current level by hunting.
Yeah, you drink its blood. The globule itself contains a gallon of water. It's not really leathery, but it is a membrane. You could pierce it, and you could drain the water and drink of it. And if Ma'ak does not partake, then the other 3 of you could get a quart out of it with a quart left. And that would get you 1/4 of the way towards your daily allowance. So, in fact, what everybody needs to do at this point is you need to reset your water allowance table. And if anyone chooses to drink from the bubble, then you can add a quart, and then you can leave a quart basically as reserve.
Yes.
Having said that, you're gonna follow the trail or the path of the Weezer towards...
We risk too much. We can't lose it.
Give me your survival check.
So I make it by 12.
12. Okay. So you're able to follow the path of the Weezer, you think, pretty well for the rest of the night. And close to dawn, you've traveled about 12 miles. You crest a dune. A big Mechalot dune. Not as big as the one that you went over before. This one may be about 300, 400 feet. You get to the top of it and you look down, and you can see down in the basin before you the hive. the Weezer Hive. And the rest of the group, you're keeping pace well enough. You get to the top of this Mechalot dune. A few moments later, the rest of the party follows chase. You're standing there, you look down. For the others in the group, you don't really notice anything. But Maak is like, that's it. And for Maak, what you see is this little basin, maybe 100 yards on a side, with these little sandy mounds, kind of here and there. For the rest of you, you just see like a small patch of sand dunes, and it doesn't mean anything to you. But you know this is the Weezer Hive. This is what you've been looking for. This is what the Clutch goes after when they're seeking water. And what you need to find is the Queen's brood chamber. Because inside that Queen brood chamber, which is going to be the largest one on the site, there's going to be dozens of those little bubbles full of water. Dozens of little bubbles full of honey. It's not easy pickings, you know. You know the difficulty. But you get in, you get out, you take what you need, and you move on. You might take some casualties. You might have to lay some Weezers down. But in the end, you typically get what you came after. And it's there. It's right down there. And you only see a couple Weezers flying around, guarding the place right now. As the sun begins to climb over the east.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played the scenario A Little Knowledge for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition and the Dark Sun setting. This has been a collaboration with our friends at the podcast Adventure Hook. Do check out the link in the show notes to get tons of new ideas for your game. Our Dungeon Master was Aaron Campbell, and Matthias was joined by Robert Randle, Amedeo Turturro, and Emelie O'Hara. The music was made by Ager Sonis and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody, dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, and Ludwig Manford for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Indy Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, water is life.